We got this BMW E28 running after sitting abandoned on a farm for the last 6 years. And in the last episode, we chased down a pretty nasty misfire. And now, in part 3, things are about to get serious. Will this be the moment it finally runs like it should, or the moment everything falls apart? My E28 has been here for nearly 2 months and still doesn't drive or stop. So now we really have to buckle down and actually fix this thing. One of the biggest problems with this car is that the brakes do not work. So last week we attempted to bleed all 4 brakes but only had success with the 2 rear calipers. We figured out that the soft lines, they were clogged and didn't work at all. So I've ordered some and we've now got them. But good news is, this is the root of our caliper not getting brake fluid. The hard line squeezes out fluid just fine. I've also ordered a new intake air control valve and it arrived the other day. So hopefully the car will actually idle now as well. We've also got a new bleed screw for one of the calipers because it ended up being rounded off as soon as I took it out. So we needed to get it out with pliers, but now we've got a new one and hopefully it fits. And we have to get it off the front lawn because I've actually moved house. So I need to get it to the new place into the garage where we actually have a bunch more space to work on it. Unfortunately, because this is a 40-year-old BMW, finding local parts is pretty hard for this thing. So most of the time I'm having to order from overseas, from the United States or United Kingdom, and the shipping time is a couple weeks. These are the new brake lines. Hopefully they fit. It's always a gamble when buying parts online for old cars, especially European, because there are so many different variations for different models that it can be hard to find the exact one you need. Only ones I could find for an E28, and it was for the wrong model and wrong year, so it didn't fit this. So I took the risk because they're only 60 bucks and they fit. They're pretty easy to put in, they're just a bit awkward. These lines really only require you to screw in 2 different sections and it's that easy. This is why I love working on old cars, everything is so straightforward. So that line is now on officially. Bleed screw that'll hopefully fit. So we just tried to bleed the brakes here and the bleed screw doesn't seem to be right and it's not flowing out where it should. The positive side is this is locked shut, so they work. So now we're attempting this side. Hopefully this goes a little bit smoother. So despite ordering the correct part number, the bleed screw still wasn't the same as the original and didn't work. You need a 7mm for this tiny little bleed screw. This must have had some kind of wheel speed sensor on it or brake wear sensor on it and it's been cut. That's where the bolt is. So crusty. We put the new brake line on and the bleed screw is okay on this side, so we're going to attempt to bleed it. Obviously using a proper vacuum bleeder would be more effective, but I don't have one and I'm doing everything on a budget. So for this we're using a very old school method of just keeping some fluid in a container and making sure there's no air bubbles. And now before we turn the car on to test its brakes, I've got to replace the intake air control valve as well as a vacuum line that goes to the pressure regulator. This is the new intake air control valve, or IACV. It is actually from Max Speeding Rod, so this isn't sponsored or anything, but it's from the same brand that do cheap coilovers, which is kind of funny because this is pretty much the only place in Australia that I could actually get this. So it looks pretty much the same as the old one, so I'm praying that it works. Hopefully it actually idles. Now unfortunately, if this little intake air control valve doesn't fix our idling issue, it'll probably just be the injectors I'll need to replace, which fortunately, because this is an old car and it's not direct injected, they are super easy and still pretty cheap. In retrospect, this might be easier if I took the air intake off, but I'm not going to do that again because it was a struggle to get this back on after I taped it, so we're just going to struggle until it fits. All right, now that the IACV is on and hopefully leak free, we've got to put the fuel pressure regulator line back on, which I said I did last video and I actually forgot to do. So that just goes under the intake manifold and then plugs into that. Pretty simple, feeds straight down through this little hole. I say simple and then I proceed to struggle, needing tiny fingers. All this little line does is essentially allow pressure to build up in the regulator and open a valve to allow excess fuel pressure out of the fuel rail. Essentially just an old version of a return fuel line. And now after nearly 6 years of sitting on a farm and 3 months of sitting in my driveway, will this car actually run and stop? And this will be exciting because I have not once yet driven this car at all. Wow, that's a bit better. That is by far the best it's ever idled. It's actually steady at the moment. Now we're going to test if it brakes, because that's the most important part. Despite it needing probably another brake fluid flush, the brakes do obviously work now, which is one step closer to getting this car back on the road. Alright, today we are picking up my blue E28s to bring to the new place so we can actually put it in the garage and continue working on it, because currently it's about an hour away sitting at my parents' place. So got the Land Cruiser and we're going to pick up a trailer, and then we'll pick up the car. Hopefully we can get it onto the trailer without it scraping, because last time we were not able to. So it's going to be a challenge. 10 o'clock at night, we have the car off the trailer at the new place, and it runs. It's got no exhaust on it at the moment. It sounded pretty insane. But right now we've got to put the exhaust back on, because we're going to get a bunch of neighbors' complaints otherwise. So we don't want that. It runs, it drives, and it stops, and now we have to clean up the engine bay. This new hose we got is like the extra money mobile detailing.
Extra money mobile detailing.
Have you seen that shit? We're just like out. We're doing it the old school method. None of this detailing crap. So for obvious reasons, I'm not going to soak the whole engine bay, just because the wiring in this car is really old and pretty bad. Just gonna give it a brush. Yeah, this hose is actually proper whack. I hope you can see this. Jeremy's struggling. It just keeps kinking. You can see the difference now. It's actually coming together nice and clean there, nice and clean the seals, compared to this side where it's all grimy. So because I'm not obviously made of money, there's a few restrictions when it comes to this thing in terms of how much I can spend on it per week. So unfortunately, that's why the videos are a bit slower than usual, and also because we've been moving house as well. One of the things I've been neglecting to properly finish is this front bumper. We've got to properly screw this thing in and then fix all these light fixtures. I hope I have them all. They're in that box they came with the car. If I'm missing something, that's going to be really annoying. And as they say with cars, a quick project is usually a lot longer than you expect it to be. And like any good project car, this one's going to be a lot bigger than I expected it to be. So now that my car is running and driving, the next thing to do is to actually fix it cosmetically, because this thing looks pretty shocking currently.